The Mariners just won their first series in Fenway Park since 2014. Joe and I are going to go over the games in this series, including the start by Emerson Hancock. He really came out there and surprised us. And then we're going to talk about some roster moves the Mariners probably need to make as they come back home, because there's quite a few of them. I don't think we can keep Donovan Solano on this roster much longer. Operation Overreaction is coming at you from Joe, and he's got a fun one today. And then we're going to talk about the Miami Marlins series that starts on Friday. Thank you guys so much for watching episode 185 of the Hit It Here podcast, part of the Bleav network, the Kennedy and the Big Z episode of the podcast. Both of them had big donos or gifted members on the stream on Thursday, so we appreciate you guys for that. And while we're at it, we do want to mention Joe's got some of our cool new merch on. We have 2 new merch options as well, including the Heck the Astros merch and the Tridents Up Torpedoes Away merch, of course, about the torpedo bat. You can get that with the link, the fourth wall link, in the description down below. And I'm here with Joe with the new merch. How we like it?
I'm jazzed, personally. So there's this Simply Seattle shirt that I wear. I've got 2 of them. There's the Sean Kemp one and then like the Mariners like undead pitcher one. It's on a specific style of shirt, comfort colors, whatever. That's the same exact one as this one. It's a good quality shirt. And that was our biggest concern with, making merchandise and all that stuff. We want it to be good enough quality. We want it to be good quality. And that's what this is. The previous adventures, maybe they weren't as good, but that's okay.
That's why we switched.
That's why we live, and that's why we learn. And I don't have a good transition to say that. The Mariners won another series on the road to finish out a 9-game road trip, 6-3. Won every single series, have won 5 in a row. Like you mentioned, the first time they've won a series in Boston since 2014. We were but teenagers back then. Yes.
We were still in high school.
Yeah, we were but wee lads the last time they did that. And let me tell you, I did not have a lot of confidence going into the final game, especially after you dropped the first game, which felt like the one that maybe you had the best chance to win on paper. Brayan Bello making his season debut. You have Bryce Miller, who's coming off a pretty decent start in his last time out against Cincinnati. But, alas, they lose that first game 8-3. I truth be told, I didn't get to watch that game a ton. But it looked like Bello did okay. Did better than I expected him to, especially after his rehab starts going super well. And, yeah, the Mariners scored 3 runs, but, 8 runs to the Red Sox in that one. There was not enough firepower from the Mariners to keep that one in check.
Yeah, Bryce once again was struggling with his command, which has been a pretty common theme for him throughout most of this season. And something that we talked about on stream that night, because first and foremost, losing that game made it feel like you might get swept in this series, because you knew you had Hancock on the mound in game 2, and you were facing Crochet in game 3. Turns out those are the 2 games the Mariners won, because of course, but we talked about it a little bit during the stream, and I actually want to bring it up to you now since we're on the topic. With Bryce Miller coming out and saying that he has struggled bouncing back from start so far this year. When George Kirby's healthy, do you maybe put Bryce Miller on the injured list for like 2 or 3 starts just to hopefully get him over that dead arm period and keep Emerson Hancock? If he continues, obviously we need to see more. We need to see more out of Emerson Hancock. If he continues to pitch the way he has, do you keep him in the rotation? Maybe you put Bryce on with shoulder soreness or something like that, or fatigue.
Yeah, I think, it's something that we've seen them do with Brian Wu in years past, when pitch counts and innings limits were a bit more prevalent for him, but also just general rebounding from arm injuries and ramping that arm back up. If Bryce, who, he's thrown a ton of innings. Like, I don't know if he expected himself, or the Mariners in the development plan for him expected him to go out and throw as much as he did last year. Him having a bit of trouble getting that arm feeling right. It's not surprising to me. It's not good news. If you have to shelf him for 15 days and Hancock is still pitching well enough, I think I would prefer that than the long-term effects that could happen if you just let him keep rolling back out there, and eventually by mid-May and like early June, word comes out that you got to shut him down for the rest of the year. If you can avoid that by, sacrificing 3 or 4 starts for Miller in place of Hancock, I think I'd take that, especially if that means Miller will be healthy for the rest of 2025. There's no way to guarantee that would fix his problem, or, help the shoulder soreness and the arm fatigue in general, but that's the best way to do it. And especially if Hancock continues to pitch like he did in game 2, where he went out there and relatively shoved in another hitter-friendly park against Boston in an 8-5 victory in game 2.
Yeah, we were happily wrong. The 6th quality start from a Mariners starting pitcher this season was Emerson Hancock. He had a quality start before George Kirby, who's obviously injured, but also before Bryce Miller himself. And so,
Sure.
Because hey, that is directly from Jake's tweet.
All right.
Yeah, we all didn't. Nobody thought that Emerson Hancock was going to go out there and limit the Red Sox in Fenway to 2 runs. And he pitched. I mean, those first couple innings, he looked good, like good. Like this is what you drafted him for, good. And then you kind of saw him start to taper out a little bit there in the later innings of his outing, and he was down to 93. Now, this is part of the reason why I've said before, maybe he eventually transitions to a bullpen role, because he looked electric out there for the, first 30 pitches.
I feel like first 3 innings, there was definitely moments, flashes of 96 with good movement and being able to play off of other pitches that he has as far as his stuff is concerned. But that third time through the order, which they dodged in Cincinnati, I think he got to see the top half of the lineup against the Red Sox, where it was a bit scarier, where you see the stuff starting to play down. If he can only go 5-6 innings, depending on the pitch count, if it's with only 2 runs given up, that's good every single time out. Because in other experiences, other teams' number 5 or number 6 starters, they're getting blown up by that 5th inning. Whereas if Hancock can keep you in there and keep you within striking distance, and also it helps that the Mariners, in this game specifically, at one point had an 8-2 lead, where, you're feeling pretty good about, one, the offense's ability to score runs with Hancock on the mound, but also the way Hancock was able to limit damage against the Red Sox in this one.
Yeah, I think that moving forward, that's a big sign for him, and why, as of right now, and we've talked about it a lot, how it should be Logan Evans. Right now, it should be Emerson Hancock. I mean, he has proved us wrong, and that's exactly what he needed to go out there and do. I will happily eat my words about Emerson Hancock if he continues to go out. Colton loves eating.
Shock.
Because he's fat.
Shock.
But
me too.
Shut up. I think that overall, if Hancock can he doesn't have to be as good as he was in this start, but if he can be consistent, he has a real place in the major leagues at some point. And one of our predictions this year, my prediction specifically, was that Emerson Hancock pitches well enough to net the Mariners something good at the trade deadline.
And we're well on our way.
We're well on our way.
If he continued, this would be my top end expectation for him. This is him going out there and every single night goes 6 innings, gives up 2 runs. I will happily take that out of a start from Emerson Hancock. Of course, I did mention it was an 8-2 lead at one point. It gets to 8-5 because Tristan Casas hits his 2nd homer of the series in this one off of Casey Legumina, which means Andres Munoz has to get used in this game where you once held a 6-run lead. Munoz does get the job done. Goes, 8 for 8 in save ops at that point?
Yep.
Or was that 7?
I think it was 8. He has 9 now.
He has 9 now. Spoilers. Because we were worried that, maybe not worried, but having the full capacity of your bullpen available to go in the final game of a series, which you can then win the series with, that is more important than, say, solidifying that split in the second game if you don't have to use it. But you ended up having to because of that 3-run lead the final day.
Yeah, there was hope that we weren't going to see Andres Munoz in the final game. The Mariners were just going to put up enough runs to not have to deal with it. It kind of felt that way at the start of the game, where the Mariners, facing Garrett Crochet, put up a couple of runs in the first inning while also getting his pitch count up to 30 pitches. That is exactly what we talked about the Mariners needed to do, this offense needed to do, to put up a fight against Crochet, and Brian Wu simply outdueled him. He looked pretty good as well in this game, and so, yeah, I mean, the Mariners played really well versus Skubal. They've played really well now versus Crochet. I don't love the Mariners left-handed or the right-handed lineup versus a lefty, but somehow they manage.
They've done well enough. I mean, God, I'm just thinking back to the Jeffrey Springs start.
True.
Sure, that was
Good
the
point.
second game of the year where maybe they're just not all ramped up yet. Pitchers ahead of batters, blah, 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 blah. But the fact that they've won both games facing Skubal and Crochet, who likely would be favorites to be at least in the final conversation for the American League Cy Young at the end of the year, that bodes well for me having confidence in them going forward. Garver, odd year Garver, catching in this final game with Cal DHing, drives in the first 2 runs for the Mariners. A ball hit to deep center off the wall. Doesn't get out, but it's a double that scores 2 nonetheless. Some, I guess, good situational hitting to get the other 2 across. Dylan Moore, a bases loaded, deep fly ball, drives in a run. Julio, a little dribbler to the right side, scores that 4th run. But after that, the Mariners offense did get a little quiet. Some traffic throughout the rest of the day. Again, the bottom half of the lineup, bottom third of the lineup, with Williamson, Rivas, and JP. I mean, they did phenomenal once again. JP on this road trip.
Yeah.
I mean, his OBP's got to be over 400. His OBP's over 400. Like, wait, you didn't like that?
Why'd you do that?
Because, like, surprising. I was like, gotta shake it off. He was so good. I mean, on the road trip, I don't know where it stands because Fangraphs hasn't processed the data yet, I don't think. But prior to today's game, Thursday's game, he had a 206 WRC plus on the road trip. I think it went up after that final game because he got on base twice at least, I think.
Yeah.
Or did he have 2 hits and a walk?
That sounds right.
So on base 3 times. Like, JP had a phenomenal wake me up kind of series, just like road trip in general. I hope that he can continue that as they come home on Friday against the Marlins. But as we said, Munoz, he needed to come in and finish the job. Does go 9 for 9 in save ops. Mariners win 4-3. Is he the best reliever in baseball?
Currently, yes.
Like,
absolutely. I mean, Clase's been terrible. Williams has been terrible.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, he's the best reliever in baseball right now. The worry is that you're going to use him so much that it's going to bite you in the butt later in the season. Obviously, every game and every win counts. So these are still important wins. But the usage we've gotten out of Munoz so far has been pretty high and pretty high leverage as well. Mm-hmm. And so, we need to see some reinforcements. And those may be coming because Matt Brash has continued his rehab down in Tacoma, and he said he threw 20 pitches the other day.
Yep.
So I
think yesterday.
Was it yesterday? Okay. Mm-hmm. There's a pretty good chance that we see Matt Brash back with the big league club at some point during this homestand. Obviously, a pretty short homestand. I mean, it could be as soon as Friday. It could be as soon as the team gets here. I would assume in that scenario it's Casey Lawrence once again being DFA'd. Poor guy, poor fella. Mm-hmm. But I don't know. I think that adding Matt Brash back to this bullpen would be a huge upgrade when Munoz, to maybe take some of the high leverage innings away from Andres Munoz, at least for the time being, to let him relax a little bit.
Yeah, he's got to chill out. We talked about it a little bit on the stream of who will close out the game on Friday if the Mariners are in a save situation, because Munoz, after pitching back-to-back days, is likely down without a day off in between, obviously. If the Mariners activate Matt Brash and have him close out the game in his return to, major league action for the first time since 2023. Like, that would be really sick.
Art.
That would be chef's kiss, assuming everything goes well.
Right.
But you mentioned Lawrence as an option to be DFA'd. Casey Legumina does have an option still available. So he could be optioned, and they keep Lawrence after they've thrown him through the ringer on this road trip of just up and down, left and right, everything else in between. I think they like his flexibility to give you more than an inning as well if you really need it. But again, Legumina got ambushed in the second game against Boston, so maybe they are worried about him and his confidence going forward after the first time really getting touched up in the bigs for the Mariners. But there will be those are the main 2 guys. It's either Lawrence, both Caseys. Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Which Casey will it be? Whether or not they want to bring back Troy Taylor yet, I'm not entirely sure. But regardless, if there's a reinforcement coming to the bullpen in either Taylor or Brash, I think that's a good thing for the bullpen long term. Mm-hmm. And if other guys could start to struggle, if Bizardo has a couple bad outings out in a row, then you have options down in Tacoma. Beyond that, same thing with Trent Thornton. I mean, yes, he got Bregman out in the final game against Boston, but we know Thornton's bugaboos every once in a while. He is a roller coaster to watch on the mound. But I think the bullpen is in a pretty good spot, which is something that I didn't think I'd say after a 9-game road trip with some weird off days and how many innings they've had to throw. I like where the bullpen, at least the direction in which it's heading. Colin Snyder doesn't look like a one-year wonder, which is great. I think, if Vargas continues to pitch well in big spots, that's a really good thing for the Mariners long term. And it's just, you want to feel good about each spot within the Mariners team as they get ready for the long haul of the season. Yes, it's the first month, but you've got 4 more months of ball to play. And that begs the question of how much more time can the Mariners willingly employ Donovan Solano on this baseball team?
Yeah, I can't watch him for another 4 months. They're the most pitiful at-bats I've ever seen. And the numbers are now there to back it up, as after his first at-bat, he officially had a lower WRC plus, the lowest minimum 30 plate appearances in Mariners history. Below Tuffy Gosowich.
Listen, is your GOAT setting Mariners records? I don't think so. Donovan Solano held the Mariners record. Good or bad, he held the record, that's what counts.
That's what matters. Yeah, it's really bad. I mean, he's not even like, for a guy whose nickname is Donnie Barrels, I don't know if I've ever seen that guy hit a baseball on the barrel since he joined this team. I think that Donovan Solano can find a way to be productive for another team, but not the Mariners. And someone who's been pretty productive down in AAA, Joe, is Tyler Locklear. In 20 games, he's hitting 299, 393, 455 with an 848 OPS. He's striking out about 27% of the time, so it's a little high there, but I mean, he legitimately cannot be worse.
Without setting the record. If he was somehow worse than Donovan Solano, it would be history. And he's also just defensively better at first base than Donovan Solano. You bring up Tyler Locklear, have him be the right-handed platoon with Rowdy Tellez over there at first base, and then maybe when Victor Robles comes back, then Tellez is gone, and Luke Raley's back at first. I don't know. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but Tyler Locklear's earned it down in AAA. He absolutely has. And Solano, he's a black hole in the lineup. He's a guaranteed out every time. It hasn't been pretty. I know Ben Ranieri had a good tweet that I resonated a lot with, where I liked the Solano move. I wanted Solano for a while, and it's legitimately been devastating watching him go up there and look feeble every single time. And there has not been a semblance of change of approach, willing to attack a pitch that you can hit. His swing and miss is the worst that it's ever been. And it's just, it is time to cut bait, unfortunately. Like, it's just, you have to move on. Because, as you're saying, yes, Locklear came up last year, didn't perform exceptional, but, like, also, did he really get the chance to really go and show what he fully had? I mean, yeah, 16 games, 45 ABs, but they were so, like, sparse. Mm-hmm. It was however many days in between at bats. Will he be able to see consistent playing time, or will it maybe not matter as much this year? I'm not entirely certain on that, but again, it can't be worse, right? Especially with Locklear and Tellez as the platoon over at first base. Tellez is still going to see the bulk of the action because he's the strong side platoon. He's left-handed, Locklear's right-handed. If we see this move tomorrow where Donovan Solano is DFA'd and released, whatever, and Locklear's called up, Locklear won't get a start until the Angels series, the second game, the final game against Tyler Anderson, because it's 4 righties all in a row. Yeah, you could see pinch hit opportunities, or if someone needs a day off, maybe they start him against a righty just to see. But as it stands right now, making this move tomorrow, yes, it does make sense to just change it up in the dugout, change it up, and see if there's something else that you can get out of another spot on this team, because he is a black hole. He is negative value to you even while he's sitting on the bench.
Yep.
A 5'8" first baseman, small target to throw to. Locklear's 6'2". Big, you talk about his defense, but just a bigger target to throw to. I know everyone was harping on Solano after that. Well, I don't know who hit it, but it was a ball to the second baseman, takes the second baseman towards the foul line. He throws it pretty across Donovan Solano's body, but he gets ran over.
He gets trucked.
Whereas if it was Tellez or even...
And they compared it to the Tellez one.
Yes, where much different body types, much different people, and I get that, but yeah, it's time. And if there's also Samad Taylor, the roster fits a bit funky there. My only argument for Taylor over Locklear would be if he's the hotter hand, and also my argument about first base. You don't really need that weak side platoon at first base for the majority of the next 5 to 10 games, probably. I think it's worth maybe taking a shot on Taylor, but I think Locklear would be the answer, and the one that you wanted 2.5 weeks ago when Dom Canzone originally got called up, when Robles went on the injured list, was, I feel like Locklear makes the most sense as far as roster fit is concerned. Well, now's the time.
Mm-hmm. I think that when it comes to moves like this, the writing's kind of on the wall at this point. But with that being said, it was on the wall for quite a long time with Colton Wong as well, and it never happened. So I think that I wouldn't be shocked if the Mariners wanted to keep rolling with Solano simply because they think that he can turn into the hitter that he has been. But there is literally zero signs of life right now from Donovan Solano, and because of that, I think he just needs to go. I wouldn't say that it's an overreaction, Joe, to want to get rid of Donovan Solano, but it's your turn for Operation Overreaction. What a segue.
Segues are weird.
Let's hear it.
So there was it Jim Callis?
Mm-hmm.
He posted a graphic, basically, I don't even know if it was a graphic or it was just like a list type situation of the draft pool money available. And the Mariners are the only team with over 17 million in draft pool. 17,074,400 available in draft pool money. Wow, I can read numbers. No other team has over 17 owned. The rest of the MLB get owned. After this draft, obviously the Mariners have the 3rd overall pick. They've got another one
35, I think.
I think 35. So 2 in the top 35. We saw what they were able to do with 3 in around that range as well with Emerson, Pete, Farmelo. Ben Williamson was a 2nd-round pick in that 2023 draft at 57. We've seen his production, what he's been able to do, how he's kind of shot up through the ranks as far as production's concerned, but also in the Mariners system, he was in the teens as far as prospects are. And with guys like Felon and Celestin and Lazaro Montes absolutely tearing the cover off the ball, the top end of this Mariners farm system, it's only going to get better. Mm-hmm. Felon Celestin's going to shoot up lists. Lazaro, he's already pretty high on a lot of lists. He could be a top 50 MLB prospect by season's end. Maybe top 40 if he continues to hit. I feel the same exact way about Felon Celestin. Sure, Colt Emerson's still there. Will Cole Young maybe see a bit of prospect fatigue that Harry Ford had? Maybe. But these guys are going to continue to ascend. The prospects are only going to get better. Ryan Sloan's looked really good. Sane just looked incredible. With this much money in the 2025 draft, the 3rd overall pick, the 35th overall pick, this will be the best Mariners prospect system, farm system, whatever, in Mariners history. And it will be the best prospect farm system in all of baseball by the end of the 2025 draft.
Yeah, it's hard to imagine that it's not already. When the Mariners have 9 top 100 prospects, the most in baseball, they will be adding at least one more with the number 3 pick in the draft. And with number 35, they could go over slot on somebody and maybe pay them a little bit extra money to get them to come to the Seattle Mariners, and then maybe go under slot a little bit later in the draft. That is the luxury they have with the amount of money that they have. So does that mean that they go with like Ethan Holiday at number 3 if he's still available? Maybe. Again, a lot of the prospects are going to keep changing until the draft, so we'll have to wait and see kind of how these guys perform in their, seasons in college or what have you. But the Mariners having the highest draft pool when they already have 9 top 100 prospects, I mean, you have to be bullish on the future of this team right now because, wow, the guys that are in here already are very, very good.
And it's 9 Baseball America top 100, 7 MLB Pipeline. Whether or not that matters a ton, I don't really think so. Like, it's all relative. I know the Mariners, in general, I would say, would you say consensus have a top 5 farm system? Like, if you went and asked all 30 GMs, president of baseball operations, whatever, would they be top 5?
Absolutely.
Because you look at the Red Sox, yes, Christian Campbell was a top 10, and they have Roman Anthony as the number 2 overall prospect after, of course, Roki Sasaki kind of took that mantle. So if the Mariners can continue to add at the top end, but also they're like through like the roots, the ground, like the 30 through 20s, it's still deep. It's still a deep system. Mm-hmm. There's still going to be productive players in those spots. I think that there's no way that I can deny that the Mariners will have the best farm system in all of baseball. Like, it would take a miraculous fumble in the draft. It would take a miraculous collapse by a handful of the top 100 prospects that are already there for the Mariners, or some other prospect, like another farm system, one, having good draft capital, but also having guys rise up through a ton of ranks, right? Mm-hmm. I think that's the way that maybe this doesn't happen, but like you said, it's hard not to be bullish about the future of this team, and especially with Scott Hunter still as, the draft, what is his position? Draft strategy? That's not the thing. What is he?
I'm sorry, the bug's gonna walk in front of the lens and it's gonna be really funny.
No, it's not. It's fine. What is Scott Hunter's position?
The director of
something with the draft. Doesn't matter. You guys know who Scott Hunter is if you're aware of the Mariners coaching staff. But regardless of that, I don't know of another time where the Mariners have had such a wide, just like a big cast of prospects that are at this level. One in my lifetime, but also in franchise history. So if they don't maybe become the best in all of MLB, as far as a farm system's concerned, I think best in Mariners history is also pretty safe.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And they've had some pretty high level prospects before, but I don't think they've ever had it quite like this. And that's why I don't think it's an overreaction. I think it's actually probably a pretty safe bet at this point. I think that's a good shout. And I was shocked to learn that they were going to have the most capital of any team, because obviously they're drafting third, but they have that 35th pick as well. So yeah, pretty excited about that. One thing I'm excited for, Joe, the Mariners are finally back home. It felt like it took forever, but the Miami Marlins are coming to town. It's going to be Cal Quantrill versus Logan Gilbert in game one. You have to feel pretty good about that because, again, Logan has been pretty solid so far this year. Cal Quantrill has an 8.31 ERA on the season. We know that he's never really been that good. And so, yeah, I hate to say it. I would love for the Mariners to pick up Cal Quantrill and turn him into something, but he has been pretty bad throughout his major league career.
The Just Baseball media folk are mad at you, all right? And I know he's a big deal for them and wanting his success to ring true. Gilbert returning home, City Connect, trying to get on the board with the City Connects because are they 0-1 or 1-1 in the Connects? Have they played 2 games on Friday?
I think so. I
think they're 1-1.
Right.
Need to go check out Cone Jack Jelly if for the jersey tracker. But regardless, City Connect night, it's always a fun night in the park, especially, again, like I said, with Logan on the mound. The Mariners heading into this series. Now, stay with me. Hold on to something. Because this is not something I don't think a lot of people would have expected. Or at least at this stage of the season, given some of the 3-8 start. But as it stands right now, after the Mariners game today, the Mariners have the 4th best offense by WRC plus in all of baseball. They currently sit at a 118 WRC plus behind the Yankees, the Cubs, I'd say maybe the 2 World Series favorites right now from each side, and then the Athletics, who we know the tail of the table in the Athletics. They've got a lot of big boppers. Soderstrom obviously tied for the league leading home runs. Nick Kurtz just got called up. You've got Brent Rooker. You've got Lawrence Butler. You've got Jacob Wilson. It's their pitching that's been the hard part. The Mariners, 4th in all of baseball. Generally, if you would have told me that they'd be 4th in WRC plus in all of baseball on April 24th, I would think that they might have the best record in all of baseball because of how good the pitching was supposed to be. And they've been more middle of the road. A 3.92 ERA, tied for 14th in all of baseball. Or not tied, they're just 14th. I thought Cleveland was 3.92 as well. They're 3.94. Owned, Cleveland. Owned. The Mariners have an advantage in this series because 4th in all of baseball in WRC plus, 14th in team ERA. That's better than both of where the Marlins and, yes, I'm trying to find them. 28th for the Marlins in team ERA at 4.89. Is that accurate for both of them? Where are they? Miami, 18th, not 28th. 18th with a 97 WRC plus. The Mariners have an obvious advantage coming home, one being at home, but also they're playing well. The Marlins are under 500. They've got a negative 20 run differential. Logan Gilbert, he should be able to go to town.
Yeah, and throughout his career, Cal Quantrill versus the Mariners, Julio's owned him.
Owned.
In 11 at-bats, Julio has 2 home runs. He's hitting .545 with a 1636 OPS versus Cal Quantrill. Jorge Polanco, 0 for 19.
Ouch.
Versus...
that was Guardians Quantrill, though, that he was facing.
True. Against Logan Gilbert, the Marlins, Otto Lopez has faced him 3 times, 0 for 3. And Jesus Sanchez is 1 for 4. That's all there is to that. You mentioned that if you would have said if you would have heard the Mariners were 4th in WRC plus offensively, it would have blew your mind. It blows my mind that we came home from this road trip like a game or two back from the best record in the American League.
Yeah.
Like almost better than the Yankees, even though the Yankees have the best WRC plus at a 134.
I mean, Aaron Judge is not human.
That's a good point. That's true. Game 2 here is going to be Luis Castillo on the mound for the Mariners on Saturday versus Connor Gillespie. Gillespie's 0-2 with a 6.75 ERA. He has 21 strikeouts on the season. Another right-handed pitcher here. We know the story with Luis as well. His past couple starts have looked a little bit rough. But nonetheless, when we look at how these guys have fared against each other, the Mariners have not faced Connor Gillespie, and the only player on the Marlins that's faced Luis Castillo is Jesus Sanchez, and he is batting .333 in 9 at-bats versus him. So really not a whole lot of tape for either. There's a lot of video for these guys to watch, but nonetheless, that's the pitching matchup game 2.
I think also that gives a lot of confidence. Like if both teams haven't seen either guy, when you're looking at track record and just how they're pitching on the year, Castillo with a 4.44 ERA, sure, it's not great. Gillespie's at a 6.75, and also Castillo's pitching in his home park.
Right.
The advantage is heavily swayed in the first 2 games, specifically for the Mariners, and I think that's a good sign because you don't want to get too high on the pet. Like you don't want to start off too high coming off a very successful road trip, and we know that the Mariners teams in the past either play down or play up to their opponents. This is not at the time to take your foot off the gas pedal and play down to the Miami Marlins here in T-Mobile Park. You need to step on their throats. You need to continue to win series. What's your catchphrase? It's hard to sweep in baseball or whatever.
No, yeah. Yes, it's hard to sweep in baseball.
This is a series where you feel like you could probably get away with a sweep coming home off of a 9-game road trip. Yes, there's no day off. You'll need someone to figure out the save situation on Friday, should there be one. I don't know if there will be, and that's more so like what I would be worried about is how will they manage the workload and the time, like just like the in general stamina of this team off of a pretty long road trip, a long flight home. Then you got to get back up, get after it on Friday. Everyone's excited to be there. How will they react? They should be up 2-0 in this series by Sunday with Bryce Miller on the mound opposite TBD, courtesy of MLB.com. But it would be Max Meyer's turn to the rotation, which is the toughest matchup the Mariners could face, I think, in this series, given current success of the pitchers on the season.
Yeah, we know how much Bryce Miller struggled so far this season with his command. And if that continues back home at T-Mobile Park versus Max Meyer, who just struck out 14 the other day for the Miami Marlins, that might be a bit of a problem for the Mariners. That's the game that I'm worried about the most, which means they're probably going to score 10 and, lose the first 2 or something like that. But not a whole lot to talk about here either in terms of Bryce Miller versus the Marlins. Otto Lopez is 0 for 2. Josh Stowers? Stowers?
I think it's Kyle Stowers.
Kyle Stowers. Josh Stowers is the guy the Mariners traded to the Yankees way back in the day.
Sure.
He's 1 for 2. And then Jesus Sanchez is 1 for 2 with a home run versus Bryce Miller. Otherwise, nobody else has seen him. So, again, not a whole lot to talk about there. But I think in this series against the Miami Marlins, you feel pretty good coming back home after a long road trip, a very successful road trip, facing a team that you should be able to handle quite well.
Yeah, they're 14-11 right now. I think they've scored the most runs in the American League West. I would expect that they will continue to at least win series and produce a fair amount of runs in this one against Miami. Yes, it's at home, but I think the Mariners are 8-5 at home on the year. Whether or not they're pitching well or hitting well doesn't really matter. We know the advantage that the Mariners carry playing 81 games at home in T-Mobile Park. This should stay true for this series against the Marlins.
We'll just have to wait and see once Logan Gilbert takes him out on Friday night. But that's going to do it from us here on episode 185 of the Hit It Here podcast. Appreciate you guys watching this one, and go Mariners.